Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder if a walk in a beautiful garden or a mind-bending light art installation can actually change how you feel? Today we're diving into a fascinating study that compares the experience of being in a James Turrell Skyspace art piece with the simple yet profound act of contemplating a garden. It's all about whether art and nature can boost our well-being and what kind of experiences lead to the biggest impact. Think about it. We invest a lot of public money into art, especially contemporary art. But does it actually make us feel better? This study asks that very question, focusing on James Turrell Skyspaces, which people often seek out, hoping for a positive, even transformative experience. Turrell Skyspaces are these amazing rooms with openings in the ceiling that make you see the sky in a whole new way. They've been called magical, even transcendent, but does this translate into real well-being benefits? So, how did they figure this out? They had 143 people do two things. First, they spent time in a James Turrell Skyspace. Then, they spent time just relaxing and looking at a garden. To make sure the order didn't matter, they switched it up. For half the group, some saw the Skyspace first. Others the garden first, before and after each experience. Everyone filled out a bunch of surveys about how they were feeling, what their body sensations were like, and what kind of experience they thought it was. The study took place at a beautiful historical site in Vienna, where the Skyspace and a lovely garden were right next to each other. The garden was pretty straightforward, just a nice open lawn with trees. The Skyspace was a simple room designed to channel and change the light from the sky. And here is a cool detail. They didn't tell people it was about art and well-being. They just said they were looking at how people experience different places. This way, they got more genuine reactions. Before we get to the findings, they gathered some basic info about the participants, like their age and how much they generally like art. This helps them see if certain types of people react differently. Now, for the juicy part, the results. They looked at lots of different aspects of well-being, like life satisfaction, mood, anxiety, stress, and even feelings of connectedness. They even asked people to map out where they felt sensations in their body, like a body map of feelings. This is super interesting because it gets at the physical side of these experiences. One of the most important things they did was use a special questionnaire to figure out what kind of experience people had. They found there were 5 main types of experiences, and 2 of them, harmonious and transformative, seemed particularly relevant for Turrell's work. They found that people generally had more harmonious experiences in the garden, meaning they felt calm, pleasant, and in tune with their surroundings. But in the Skyspace, there was a higher chance of having a transformative experience. This often involves feeling challenged, perhaps even a little unsettled, but ultimately leads to deeper insight or a shift in perspective. So, did the Skyspace or the garden get higher ratings for things like liking beauty or interest? Interestingly, while people said they liked the garden a bit more on average, the statistical tests showed no big overall difference in just liking or finding the spaces beautiful or interesting. That's a bit surprising, right? But here is where it gets clearer. When they looked at the body maps, people reported feeling more activation in their heads when they were in the Skyspace. This makes sense because Turrell himself said his work is about you looking, very internal and cognitive. The garden, on the other hand, led to more feelings of connection to nature. Now, let's talk about well-being. Did either experience make people happier or less stressed? Overall, neither space had a huge dramatic effect on most well-being measures. However, there was a subtle but important difference. People reported a stronger sense of connection to nature after the garden, which is no surprise. But the Skyspace experience led to higher mood arousal, suggesting a more active, perhaps even exciting mental state. Importantly, both the garden and the Skyspace visit increased positive affect for people, meaning they felt generally better afterwards. This is a key takeaway. Both nature and art can boost our mood. The really big finding came when they looked at the type of experience. It turns out the kind of experience you have is way more important than the place itself. People who had novel or harmonious experiences reported higher liking, beauty, interest, and meaning, no matter if they were in the garden or the Skyspace. So while the garden leaned towards harmonious, calm feelings, the Skyspace offered more opportunities for those transformative moments. And these transformative experiences, even if they felt a bit challenging, were linked to that feeling of connectedness and arousal in your mind. Now, no study is perfect. The researchers mentioned that they didn't get quite as many participants as they'd hoped for. This means we should be a bit cautious about drawing super strong conclusions. Also, the garden wasn't a perfectly controlled comparison. It was just a nice garden, not a specific piece of art. So, what is the big picture here? Both nature and art, in this case, boosted positive feelings. The Skyspace seemed to encourage more of a head-focused, cognitive experience, while the garden promoted a sense of connection to nature. But the most crucial finding is that the type of experience, whether it is harmonious, novel, or transformative, is a stronger predictor of how we feel and how we evaluate a space than the space itself. This is a really important insight. It means that what we bring to an experience, how we engage with it emotionally and cognitively, matters more than whether we're looking at a painting or a sunset. And a really interesting point they brought up is that Turrell often places his sky spaces in natural settings. This blurring of lines between art and nature makes the garden a tricky comparison. Maybe future studies should look at how art and nature work together, rather than comparing them as separate things. So, what does this mean for you? It tells us that if you are looking for well-being benefits from an experience, focus on how you engage with it. Be open to new types of experiences, whether it is at a museum or in a park. Sometimes the most profound moments come from being challenged and reflecting. Future research could explore the long-term effects of these transformative experiences, or dive deeper into how we can intentionally cultivate more positive experience types. What do you think? Have you ever had a transformative experience with art or in nature? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this dive into the science of experience, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more mind-bending research. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.